Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kate, this is the Mystic in the Woods, and today we are going to be talking about some of my favorite decks, or at least my most recently used decks, when it comes to connecting with the divine darkness and to assisting with shadow work. So I have not made a video in quite a while, and that is because I have been deep in the darkness, down in the shadow of my own unconscious, and working on healing a lot of stuff. I've been in one of those seasons, so I think that these healing phases, they're very much seasonal for us, very cyclical, and I have been in a season of deep healing and deep shadow work. So I thought that a great way to get started making videos again would be to share the decks I've been using to connect with the divine darkness, to connect with the divine dark guides, to do shadow work, these kinds of things. Now, as we're going to be talking about shadow work throughout this video, I just want to make a couple of things clear. So one is, this is not a comprehensive video on how to do shadow work. We're talking about some decks, and we're going to ramble a little bit. And also, if you're going to engage in shadow work, please make sure that you are doing so from a safe and grounded place. And if you need help with your shadow work, find somebody to help you hold that space. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Somebody you trust to help hold that space for you. So I thought we would start with the decks that I have been using directly for shadow work, and that has been the Earthbound Oracle and the Lantern Oracle. This one's probably not surprising because the Lantern Oracle, I believe, was made for shadow work. The Earthbound Oracle is just one of my favorite oracle decks of all time, and I have surprisingly found it to be exceptionally effective for shadow work. So shadow work, I think, is one of those things that, like, a couple of things. First of all, it's a very, like, hot term right now, right? And I think that that's cool, like, that's great because I think more of us could use shadow work. However, it's also brought up a lot of myths and a lot of misconceptions about what shadow work is and how to engage in it, especially safely. So when I'm talking about shadow work, I'm talking about primarily working to get to the root of an issue in my own life, or a wound or a pattern that is in the unconscious. So, you know, like 90% of who you are, what drives your behavior, your reactions, your everything is actually in your unconscious. Only about 5% of it is in your conscious mind. So when you have a reaction to something, that's very likely being driven by something in your unconscious that your mind has shoved away. Things in our shadow include, you know, things we have carved away due to trauma in this life or past lives, if that's in alignment for you. It's stuff that we have carved away because humanity has convinced us is not appropriate or right, or something like that. It is things we don't believe are safe to share with the world. The shadow isn't evil. The shadow isn't bad. The darkness isn't bad. These are just pieces we have carved away and locked down deep so we can sort of pretend don't exist. But when we don't know something exists, it's really hard to heal it. So what I've been using these two decks for is before and or after a meditation. I've been using these decks to get down into the root of it, to get down into what the underlying wound is, to bring things further into consciousness where I can see them, I can understand them, and I can work on integrating them in my daily life. This deck has been really great for questions like, what's at the root of this? What have I been unconsciously believing because of this? How can I integrate this in my daily life and bring it into my daily, this healing into my daily life? Things like that. I also pull cards from either of these decks before a meditation to give me a theme or a heads up about what I'm going to be exploring during that meditation. So when we are working on shadow work, I have found that connecting with beings of the divine darkness can be really helpful, because they can be fantastic guides through the shadow and helping us to understand these aspects of ourselves, because they are of the shadow. They embody shadow aspects of ourselves. So whether you believe beings like Lilith, Hecate, Hades, Goetic Infernals, fallen angels, all these different beings to be real beings outside of yourself, or aspects of you, archetypes, these types of things, either way, this can be very I find helpful in shadow work. I will say, however, though, you need to be able to trust those beings to a certain extent in order for the shadow work to be effective and safe, regardless of, like I said, whether you believe that these energies are archetypal and a piece of yourself or actual beings that exist outside of you. Now, I have found that the True Black and the Witch's Tarot by Burning Paper Hearts, this one, to be fantastic decks for working with these beings of the divine dark. So True Black, for me, has always felt like a masculine deck. So for me, and of course, everybody has their own experiences with these decks, and you don't have to have any of these decks to do shadow work or to work with beings of divine darkness. You don't. These are just the decks I have that I have been using. The True Black Tarot has always, to me, felt like a very masculine deck for me, that it holds masculine energy. It is also very straight and to the point. It is very elegant and I don't even know how to, like, it feels great. Like, the cardstock is thick and luscious. So it's very much, to me, how I experience more masculine beings of the divine darkness. And I have found this to be a fantastic deck for that. So that's what I've been using the True Black Tarot. If you want to call it the Divine Dark, I don't know, because that's what's in my head right now, right? Okay, so then the Witch's Tarot by Burning Paper Hearts I've been using for the feminine aspect of the divine darkness. And I'm going to skip the photos with nudity because I know that YouTube has not liked that lately. So Lilith, Hecate, these types of divine, dark, feminine beings or archetypes, or however you would like to look at it. So I have found these two decks to be great for that. And I want to do mention that the Witch's Tarot, fantastic pair to the Lantern Oracle. These two decks have paired beautifully for me. Like, they look beautiful together, and they have read beautifully together. Very much working off of each other. So for connecting with divine dark beings, a brand new deck to my, like, brand new as in 2 days ago, is the Fallen Angels Oracle. So I have committed to not buying a lot of new decks this year. But this one I did just purchase. So this is the Fallen Angels Oracle. I know it was out of print like a few years back. It was out of print for a while and it got really expensive. It is in print now. It has been for a while. So it's a very reasonably reasonably priced mass market deck, that you can get on Amazon. I don't have a lot to say about it because, like I said, I just got it. And I haven't spent much time with it. I've only pulled from it a couple of times. But I am very excited to work with it because each card is of... No, that's not how I want to say that. Right? This deck has been around for a while. So if you've been in the community for a while, you've probably heard of this deck. But this deck is the 72 Fallen Angels, the 72 Goetic Infernals listed in, Solomon's Testament, these types of things. So you can either... Although I have not worked with this deck, so this is not coming from experience. This is coming from, having read the guidebook. Work with this deck as a collection of individual beings, again, that are either archetypal energies that are inside of you already or external beings. Or it has really great keywords and really great small descriptions in the guidebook. So I do think that this could be used either for working with beings of the divine darkness or for shadow work specifically. So the last deck on my list is the Magical Botanical Oracle. And I can never, is it botanical, magical, botanical? I don't know. This deck is also new to my collection this year. Now, this deck, to me, very much embodies or holds the space of how I experience the shadow or the underworld as a whole. Not a place of just scary, evil darkness, but a place that holds just as much love, just as much connection, just as much humanity as anything else. Pieces of us that deserve just as much love as anything else about us. I actually have a lot of thoughts on the 7 deadly sins, the powers from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and the human shadow and the collective shadow, and the underworld and the beings of the divine. I have a lot of thoughts on this. And those 7 deadly sins being things that kind of, Western humanity has sort of collectively agreed are bad or of the devil or whatever, fill in the blank, right? And as I mentioned earlier, like, shadow work is not about driving so much light into these things that they go away. They're about integrating them so that we can be whole. And this deck feels very much like that too. My camera quit recording. So this deck is very balanced. Over here, some more space, I think. It is very balanced, and it holds the space, or has the feeling of the shadow or the underworld as a whole for me. And that idea of integrating pieces of ourselves so we can be whole. And how the beings that reside in the shadow or in the underworld are embodiments of those pieces we have carved away. So this is how I've been using these decks. I've been using these 2 decks to assist in the process of shadow work, to understand a wound, what is underneath the wound, what caused it to happen, when it happened, or the pattern or the whatever, and how to strip away layers and help me to bring the healing into my daily life. And I've been using these 2 decks, so the True Black and the Witch's Tarot, to sort of work with beings of the divine darkness. This deck feels like the whole shadow to me. So these are the decks I have been using most for the last couple of months, actually, and this one is just brand new, and I'm very excited to get into the Fallen Angels Oracle. So I put it on the list because I have it, I've just started using it, and it fits with my list, but I have not used it a lot. I do want to mention 2 other decks in my collection really quick that I haven't used this time around, but I have in the past. And that is the Tarot of Vampires, is also, in my opinion, an excellent Divine Darkness deck, as well as the Darkness of Light Tarot, which is one of my favorite tarot decks of all time. And I have just been using other decks instead. But those are 2 decks in my collection that always come to mind very quickly for shadow work or these types of things. So if there's anything you'd like to hear more about, let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.